Dr. Dre's The Chronic 2001 is a classic amongst producers and engineers alike. From the loud, hard-hitting drums and mixes to the silky smooth and rich instruments, Dr. Dre definitely kicked in the door to a whole new level of sonics and music. Today I'm going to be reacting to a very short documentary by a content creator named George T. Music, going over how this classic album was put together and some of the interesting studio stories that made those hits. Make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this video because you don't want to miss out on some of the gems dropped by a master of the craft. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, make that first part super, like crazy ghostly.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Coming in stomping, it's hit from Bronson in collaboration with Dre from Compton. I can't
Yeah, come back in and y'all fake.
Oh, okay.
coming in stomping.
The Chronic 2001 was arguably one of the most important hip-hop albums and inspired a completely new era of hip-hop in production. But the story of how and why this album was made was more complicated than you thought. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how Dr. Dre produced The Chronic 2001. In 1996, Dr. Dre would leave D.R.E. Records after a dispute with Suge Knight. Following his departure, Dr. Dre would go on to form Aftermath Entertainment, where he would then go on to drop a compilation album, which was not well received.
We did at that time, the Aftermath record, the first record, it went platinum or what have you, but it wasn't my best foot forward.
After a few years of silence following this album, many began to speculate that Dr. Dre had fallen off.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of haters out there that were saying, you know, I was washed up, I fell off and what have you.
But this just became motivation for Dre to develop what would become The Chronic 2001.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, I have to listen to the criticism too. That really motivates me. That's where I get my motivation from. Those people out there talking that nonsense, straight up.
Okay, good. You gotta put them in their place.
That was probably my biggest motivation for this record. You know, it's like, okay, this is my shut the f up album. Pow, take that.
And it's from there that Dr. Dre would go on to develop the album. But that's not to say D.R.E. wasn't watching Dre's every move, planning on his downfall. The original name for Dre's album was actually The Chronic 2000. Suge Knight would go on to release a parody album called The Chronic 2000 in order to stop Dre.
He was trying to get back at Dr. Dre.
Right, because Dre was announcing that he was coming out with The Chronic 2000, and then D.R.E. drops a compilation album.
But Dr. Dre saw this and decided to literally one-up D.R.E. And from there, The Chronic 2001 was born.
And it was actually Jimmy Iovine's idea to call the album 2001. And it's almost like a shot at them. They called their shit 2000. Right. I said, okay, yeah, that'd be great, 2001.
But 2001 wasn't just a singular album. It represented a formula and system Dre would use to produce a number of hits for years after its release. To do this, Dre would need to develop a completely new sound, one that couldn't be compared to anything else out at the time. But in order to do this, Dr. Dre understood from his D.R.E. days that to make a good album requires a superstar team of talent. Dr. Dre would assemble some of the best up-and-coming producers. At the core of this was producers like Melman, Scott Storch, and Mike Elizondo, who Dre would recruit for their various musical talents. This not only gave Dre a large amount of ideas to work off of, but it allowed him to have more control over each individual part of the recording.
Yeah, after The Chronic 2001 came out, man, there was a whole wave of music coming out of that Aftermath camp that had that signature style, those real hard kicks, those real chunky bass lines, and it was just like you instantly knew this was a Dr. Dre beat without him, you know, putting his voice on it. We have the Mary J. Blige Family Affair song. We have the Eve and Gwen Stefani Let Me Blow Your Mind song, 50 Cent In the Club song. They all had that same similar sonic texture. So as soon as you played it and then you turned it up and you started listening to it, it's like, I think this is coming from Dr. Dre without having a tag, without having a drop or anything like that, which is very interesting. And, you know, that gets me thinking about producers these days, you know, the fact we use so many different loop packs and pre-made pieces of music. You know, are we starting to lose some of that? Are we starting to lose some of our unique signature identity due to the fact that we are starting to become so dependent on pre-made loops and things like that? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is that starting to become a crutch? touch.
This differed from producers like Puff Daddy, who used samples at the time. And Dre wanted to distinguish himself from this sound.
With the whole Puffy thing, no disrespect to Puffy and what have you, but how can we advance if everything that you do is from another brain? You know what I'm saying? It's from something that somebody else created. So most of our music came from our brain. Just like this beat playing in the background, it's all original. This came from our brain, and it's real hip-hop.
Each one of Dre's musicians brought a unique element to the table. Scott Storch had very memorable and percussive piano playing that allowed Dre to easily create hooks.
I wasn't really interested in theory. I wasn't interested in anything, which, you know, it's just, I'm like not a normal piano player. I have my own system, and I play the piano like a drum, almost.
Meanwhile, Mike Elizondo was responsible for crafting the signature bass lines on many of the songs.
It was coming like the 2001 album that Dre, his solo record, you know, about 80% of those bass lines I wrote.
Learning from Dre, he learned the nuances of crafting the perfect bass line. And in many of the later Aftermath productions, he would even go on to replace the live bass that many producers would send Dr. Dre.
And Dre had Mike Elizondo, which is a legend. Mike Elizondo played the bass on there. Legend. Played it over. It made our bass sound like that shit was a Casio. Bing, bing, bing.
Yes, Mike Elizondo, definitely a very talented musician. I actually started following his career after The Chronic 2001 came out. He had an album that he did with Fiona Apple called Extraordinary Machine. So make sure you guys check out that album. Just listen to the sonics, listen to how lush it sounds, and really put some of those tips and tricks inside of your mental toolbox that you can use for your own productions. And this incorporation with live musicians inside of the production process in hip hop is partially got this from Dr. Dre, and why on my loop packs that you guys can of course get inside of the description, why I incorporate so many real live musicians inside of it, because there's something about the articulation, there's something about being able to draw from another person's inspiration and then tailor make it with your particular taste that I always found interesting. So, you know, guys, definitely please don't sleep on your local musicians or your local piano players and things like that. You never know what kind of energy, what kind of frequencies you guys can pull out together whenever you collaborate. But let's get back into the video.
And with these elements, the formula for 2001 was made. This often consisted of Dr. Dre making a beat first on his MPC, which would often be just a simple loop. And while the simple drum loop was programmed, Dre would have his live musicians play down the entire song live.
I always love mixing live performance with sequence, you know, elements. So sometimes you'd have obviously a sequence beat, and within that beat, certain elements were quantized, certain elements weren't. And then you'd have a sequence keyboard part, but mixed with a live guitar part or mixed with a live bass part. And you just get this, I don't know, this amazing, you know, even if you're trying to play it exact, the human element finds its way onto the track, and you know, it just creates this sort of ebb and flow, the feel and the groove, and I don't know.
And side note is the way Dr. Dre worked, at least at that time, was that even if I was playing like a 1-bar pattern or a 2-bar pattern over and over again, like, you know, normally they say, oh, play for 16 bars, we'll find the best 2 bars, we'll cut it, paste it, loop, and, you know, cut it, loop it, just paste it all the way to the song. He had me play the song from top to bottom.
Wow.
Every song I did.
And Dre would also bring in his recently signed artist Eminem to help write a majority of the songs. Dre would even use Eminem's first album, put many of these new musicians and this new sound to test. And once Dre dialed in his formula with this album, he got right to making 2001, spending years in the studio with his team of musicians and producers attempting to make the best beats possible.
There was a period where me, Dre, Mike Elizondo, and Millman was all beat mining. We were searching for the best fucking beat, and Dre's standards are so high. And the Chronic 2000 album was legendary.
And if you notice how much Dr. Dre is relying on a team of people to help create his vision, you know, definitely as producers, it's cool to cook up a beat by yourself, but just being able to reach out to your fellow producers or fellow musicians to just bounce ideas off of each other and see what you can come up with. You know, I've had a ton of great results doing that. I've had co-producers challenge me. I've challenged co-producers musically, and we just come up with these really good ideas. So, you know, if you're just cooking up beats in your bedroom, that's cool. Keep honing your craft, keep polishing it. And with modern technology, you can email unfinished beats. You guys could work together that way. But guys, please remember that this music thing that we're doing is really a team effort. You don't have to be this one man, one woman superhero. I did it all by myself. That's cool for bragging rights, but look at a classic album like this. Dr. Dre is relying on a team of experts, and they're just coming together to create these amazing, amazing pieces of music. But let's get back into the video.
He would be able to identify what is the hottest stuff that we playing. He'd be like, yo, that's it. And you know what I mean? And, you know, he could articulate what he wanted, and he knew how to bring the best out of us and push the bar up even higher.
He's intimidating only in the sense that he's a perfectionist, and so you know, but it wasn't like he makes you feel dumb if you had an idea. But he would be like, you'd say something and he'd be like, nah, it's, you know, let's move on, you know. But if you had a great idea and he's like, he kind of look at you like, okay, yeah, let's try that.
By the end of the process, Dre had made over 90 records and had only used 22 of them, showing you just how much of a perfectionist he really was.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dre, I heard you had 100 tracks and you only used 22. What's up with the rest?
Yeah, that was crazy. 96 tracks.
She trying to get hers on.
I like that.
You know, they just in the archives. I mean, with each record, I do a whole bunch of tracks and just pick the best out. So, you know, I have like well over 500 tracks just sitting there, you know what I'm saying? Just a lot of tracks.
Everybody wants to borrow his beats, he said.
Man, that's a lot of music just sitting there in the archive, sitting in the vault. Let me know what you guys think about this. What if Dr. Dre released a series of vinyl where you had to buy it on his website and you can get some of the unreleased music that he has in the vault? Would you guys purchase it? I know I would. You know, hopefully he wouldn't tax too much. But man, if Dre released an album or a series of albums and we could just get all that unreleased music, man, that would be crazy. I think that would shut down the internet for a little bit, at least amongst hardcore music fans. I think we would really enjoy something like that. So Dre, if you're watching this, please go ahead and do that. We'd be super appreciative of it. So let's get back into the video.
That's what goes on the record. We went through maybe like 90 joints before we picked out the songs that went on this album. We recorded a lot of songs for this record, straight up. 'Cause I wanted this one to be just brilliant, and I wanted people to say, okay, 10 years has went past, and I'm still banging this Chronic 2001 record. You know, that's what I wanted from this record, and I think that's what we achieved.
But it wasn't until the last moment that Dre made the hit single for the album.
I remember we were sitting in the studio and just throwing shit against the wall and see what would work, and Dre programmed this kick and snare, and I think his food arrived. And he was within earshot, like right outside the control room was his kitchen area, and he was eating a sandwich, and I was just noodling on the piano, and I started playing bling, bling, bling on top of this drum pattern that he had. And he poked his head in, and he was like, that's it. By the end of the day, the song was shipped off to Jay-Z to pen, and the rest is history.
Yes, still Dre. I still remember when that song first came out on MTV, and I remember listening to it. I was like, man, this is incredible. You know, the thing is, if you listen to specifically, especially Dre's verses, I believe Jay-Z wrote the whole thing. But if you really listen to Dre's verses in that song, you can easily replace it with Jay-Z's voice, and it's spot on. You can easily hear Jay-Z rapping Dr. Dre's verses. If you listen closely and kind of use your imagination and replace it with Jay-Z's voice, you're gonna be like, man, that's definitely Jay-Z's pen. And I'm wondering, you know, guys, with AI, you know, if there's a possibility, I wonder if some of you AI guys, some of you AI people out there could even replace Dr. Dre's voice with Jay-Z. I think that'd be interesting to hear. But let's go ahead and get back into it.
From that session, Forgot About Dre was born. which was a big comeback for Dre and would lead to a new era of Aftermath Records using the same formula he had established on this album. In the end, 2001 would be a career-defining record for Dr. Dre and would go on to influence many other artists as well.
If we take names like Drake, Nicki Minaj, we might even say parts of The Weeknd's music, like all of these more modern urban names, their music sound is all like derogatory from 2001. If you think about like the 808 beats, like hooky piano lines, like how do you like mix match all this urban rap hip hop and make it pop still? So yeah, that's why in my opinion that album is so strong, because you wouldn't have the Lil Waynes and you wouldn't have the Drakes, and yeah, it's just such an amazing record.
Another thing with that album is how much space Dr. Dre leaves for the voice, leaves for the human vocalist. You know, I believe there's an instrumental version of The Chronic 2001 that you guys can listen to out there. And if you listen to it and you really crank it up, you're going to be like, man, it's so much space. A voice just has this wide open highway to do its thing on this instrumental. He doesn't have a bunch of stuff that's just cluttering the mid-range and making it difficult for the artist to do their thing. He has everything nice and spaced out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. What are some of your favorite songs from The Chronic 2001? Did it influence you in any way in your musical production? And if you're old enough, do you remember when this album first came out and what you thought about it? So let me know what you think in the comments. I'll definitely be glad to check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com, where you can get free FL Studio Patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.